President of the United States?
The U.S. President is Donald Trump.
Monday afternoon. Welcome into our latest Straight Black podcast. I'm your host, Matt Dale. All right, folks, here we are as we dive into the latest Straight Black podcast. Donald Trump is sworn in as the 47th president of the United States here this morning, and we got lots going on here today. I think I got an echo going on in the background, but let's jump into it. Welcome in Anthony Varrell here on a Monday. Good to see you.
How's it going? Can you not hear me?
You get a little bit of feedback. I'm getting a little bounce back. We good? There we are. Now we're
You're good now. Yeah. Am I good or no?
No, I'm getting lots of.
That little YouTube video fucked up the audio feed.
Arns, I'm getting like a 10-second delay. Can you fix that, my friend?
Nope. Shed is paused now.
Hold on. I'm going to log off, everybody.
What
I'll
is
be right
going
back.
on?
I'll be right back. I'm going to log off. I'll be right
I think
on.
it's Shad's. I think it's Shad's internet. Ain't no business like show business.
One second.
So, how's everybody's Monday going? It's I know that we saw a lot of the big accounts yesterday on Twitter that were this is like kind of like a soft restart. But I guess we'll take it off the cuff. I mean, I know what a lot of people wanted to hear about was kind of the legalization stuff that was going on yesterday with some of the big accounts on Twitter. I was kind of surprised about what was going on, what we were seeing. I mean, it was a lot of MAGA influencers and big MAGA accounts. I kind of think they were doing some sort of thought experiment. Oh, we got Shad back again?
It's because I had my YouTube window open along with our back end StreamYard. There we are.
Boomers got to learn how to use tech.
Boomers. I'm not a boomer, but I'm a Gen Xer. Good to see you. Happy Monday. How's things?
It's good. It's good.
Yeah?
That was I think that was the first soft restart we've had to do, but I think we'll get through it.
Rough start, but hey, we're here. You know what? This is podcast. This is traditional television. We make mistakes.
Well, it's live. It's live too.
You know what?
So,
what did our good friend Bill say the one time when we went live?
Oh yeah, Bill O'Reilly.
Bill O'Reilly.
Iconic moments.
Okay, so I said off the top that Donald Trump sworn in this morning, 47th president. I know there is a lot of stuff that's floating around the Twitterverse right now. I think we need to calm all hype related to this because everybody's thinking there's going to be some sort of executive order towards cannabis. I know where I sit on this. This is not a first 100-day issue for this administration. I think a lot of people hopeful that something will get signed, but let's not get carried away, right? It's a dawning of a new era. But let's not get carried away here. So what's your take on it all?
I think we've had a lot of people that are thought leaders on administrative law and on the way things work. I know we saw a lot of big accounts yesterday saying that it was breaking. There's news of an executive order legalizing cannabis. We all know that you cannot fundamentally alter a law and take cannabis off of the CSA via an executive order. Doesn't exist. Can't happen. Even if we wanted it to happen, it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that was a social experiment by Elon Musk and by people in Trump's campaign to get large MAGA influencers to talk about cannabis, especially as it relates to cannabis legalization, and then measure social sentiment in real time.
So put some feelers out there.
It was all too orchestrated. It was all very just not even in the realm of possibility. So the people that were talking about it obviously had any clue as to what they were actually talking about. But it was interesting. I mean, it was a lot of bots that were on there that looked like middle-aged white women, kind of like the members of Twitter and X that you see reply to a lot of Sam posts that are out there. So I don't really take much heed to it. I'm not going to think for a second that we're going to get an executive order that legalizes cannabis. I don't think we're probably going to get an executive order. I don't think we're probably going to get an executive order around. And as it relates to cannabis, it would be nice. There can be one. If there is one, it's going to be to the nature of probably banking and or advising the DEA and advising the DOJ to get rescheduling done.
Agreed.
Like I said, that can happen. We talk about a lot of things that can happen potentially. Will it happen? Highly, highly unlikely that it does.
Mohammed Shaheen, yep, big win for your Bills yesterday over the Ravens. And did you see Dave Portnoy today? He put 500 grand in, made $1 million off of the meme coin with Trump, took the $1 million out, and put a bet on the Buffalo Bills to win the Super Bowl.
I saw that. I haven't done the math yet, but I'm pretty sure his entry price wasn't 3x what he entered. So I don't know if those numbers are real as far as his return. If I had to guess, the bet, the buy on the front end for the Trump coin was probably sponsored by Kraken, and then if I had to guess, the $1 million bet was sponsored by Stake or whoever did it.
25.49 right Lance Finlayson.
And I think he cashed out at 60. So if you put $500,000 in at 25 and it goes to 60, you're not cashing out $1.5 million.
No,
the numbers don't. The math doesn't math, but it is what it is. The Trump meme coin, I think personally, was a joke. I would have preferred if he didn't do it, as I don't really know what the end game is as it relates to that. And then he launched the Melania coin yesterday that literally tanked the market. So if he's going to do some stuff about crypto, I'm hoping they take a serious approach to it and stick to the majors and not try to value extract via meme coins, which is just the most frivolous shit you could possibly do in the crypto ecosystem. Well,
outside of this Twitterverse related to the executive order and all that conversation, we did see some tweets actually by Trulieve CEO Kim Rivers this weekend. She attended the vice president's ball in Washington. She's been there actually with Charlie Backdale. We're trying to get them on for a special live stream tomorrow. We'll keep you all posted, but hoping to get Charlie and Kim on. We're working on it behind the scenes, so that would be a home run, because who wouldn't want to hear what they've had to say? Would have been great, obviously, to get some pictures with some active elected officials, but hey, they were in the room. Curious to see, obviously, what kind of types of conversations that they had. But as Kim said, per her one tweet, a lot of work that needs to be done. I think you want to ask, like yourselves, we all know that a lot of the work that needs to be done, but when we look a little closer, what work, what type of work is going to be done? We did talk a little bit with David on Friday, both Davids from the agencies, and what their approach is going to be. But I would love to be a fly on the wall to know what those conversations are like and what kind of work Kim Rivers and some of these, board members from this agency are going to be doing. Because I think that's of interest, obviously, for a lot of people that are following the space.
I mean, that's all that matters for the people that are following the space. If we don't get any follow through from these agencies, and we don't get any sort of momentum from these efforts that these CEOs are pouring their time into, as well as their money, I mean, we're in trouble. Yeah. So I mean, they have to get it done. This is put up or shut up for the industry as a whole.
Rescheduling to me should be the first priority as far as banking. I think the one question, and we had a few conversations concerning this when it comes to the best chance of safe banking to pass, that probably the best way is this to be buried in with a larger bill itself. Off of that, like, do you think, like, what's your take on safe getting a floor vote all by itself? Do you think those days are gone? Like it died, this bill died in the drawer of Chuck Schumer in December. Like, what do you see?
Very well could have. I think Gretchen laid out the strategy for safe pretty eloquently. And I mean, I think she's right. You're going to have to go to Tim Scott. You're going to have to go to other members on the banking committee, and you're going to have to get them in line with what's going on. Is the easiest path to getting it through connecting it to something else? Like, let's say Senator Lummis's stablecoin bill. I mean, yeah, I don't think cannabis reform from a banking perspective is going to pass it by itself and go through the floor alone. It just doesn't look like a possibility right now, barring someone like Trump or someone just saying, guys, get this done. The paradigm shifted. The cannabis conversation has shifted. This isn't the big bad boogeyman anymore. We're not going through with the war on drugs as it relates to cannabis. We're going to focus on fentanyl, opioids, the border, and things that actually should be focused on. I mean, I'm talking best case scenario right now, which I'm not really, like I said, expecting. But getting it attached to something is always going to be easier than getting it through as a standalone bill.
Yeah. Leave some comments below, people. Ask some questions. Feel free to reach out to us with anything. Happy to have an open dialogue conversation. I know the markets are closed, obviously, in the U.S. here today, so not much moving, obviously, in the Canadian side regarding the overall industry. But again, the big takeaway here for people reading about an executive order with Trump related to cannabis, I'll go out and just say it's not happening. So calm down, let's relax, and let's see where this goes from here. But as far as any momentum building, there is some growing sentiment, and it based off of some of the stuff that even like, for example, Kim Rivers, like, being at that event, that's a big thing. And, hopefully we have them on later this week. We can talk a little bit more in depth as to what the nature of some of the conversations that she had while she was there. But that's the first step. And let's find out what a lot of this work that needs to be done. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I think also that the thing that needs to be said is the work's already been done. We have the HHS report. We have safe banking, the bill that's drafted. We have the OLC memo. All of the heavy lifting has been done. Now it's just getting the shit passed. If we were at square one today and we had no HHS report, we had no OLC memo, we had no NPRM as it relates to rescheduling, we had no safe banking, and the conversation was Trump is going to bring banking, rescheduling, and states' rights to the cannabis industry, I would tell you you're insane.
Yeah.
That in itself would be a heavy lift. But the mechanisms are there for them to bring forward.
Just the right messaging needs to be done now. Like, I don't know if you saw the press release from last week, but I was noticing afterwards, Charlie Bachtell, CEO of Cresco, was actually ahead of both agencies. So I don't understand why that was. And I can really understand now why both agencies obviously merged together, because it makes sense. But let's see how this synergy works amongst the both agencies now as they're working with one final goal. But one thing's for sure, we need somebody on the Hill from the industry that's there full time, not these mercenaries that basically come to these elected officials with, yes, a letter about cannabis, but also 10 other letters that they're representing other initiatives. They need undivided full attention, and hopefully they do it and give it and provide it for this industry. Because right now we look back, there's just a lot of things where you look between the lines and wonder why some of these things were set up. But it's moment of truth time, obviously, now for the industry, and hopefully the right messaging takes place, because as you said, a lot of the work already has been done.
Yeah.
What do we got here? What's happening? DA, who is the nominee? Still don't have any indication. We've reached out and asked, is there any names that anyone's hearing? And it's silence, crickets right now. So I want to get into that, actually.
Jack Riley surfaced over the weekend.
Did he? Okay.
As somebody that could be in the running for DEA head.
Okay. Also, I want to bring up Senator Elizabeth Warren, who I interviewed a few months back, and made it very clear it's many Republican senators that are at fault for not getting safe pass during the Biden administration. Well, today she's doubling down, where she's now pressing RFK, who's President Trump's pick for the top health agency. So to clarify, she wants his further clarification with his stance on marijuana legalization. So as Kennedy faces confirmation hearings, Warren wrote a 34-page letter where she raised questions about his views on cannabis, psychedelics, and harm reduction. She brings this up because Kennedy's previously announced that he supports legalizing these substances, but Warren wants his position on record. You wonder why she's not part of the Cannabis Caucus with her stance. She's been very vocal about this, and she clearly would be, I think, an added element to this that it's, I think, somewhat needed for this caucus. But again, I don't really know how much authority that they have, but when constructing and piecing that group together, I'm surprised that she's not part of it.
Yeah, I mean, Elizabeth Warren's also a long-standing, very influential member of the Democratic Party as it relates to the Senate. And I know that in the Senate committees, there's A, B, and C committees. I'm not sure where the Cannabis Caucus stands, but I know the Cannabis Caucus is a 4-person committee, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. I don't think, while I do think that Senator Warren has one of the best views and best grasps on the industry, after reading that article on Marijuana Moment as it relates to her letter to RFK, and then reading into it some more, she fundamentally understands what's going on. She understands the process. She understands the industry. She understands what needs to be done. That being said, I know she sits on several other committees that probably have precedent over the Cannabis Caucus, but I would love for her to get more involved and become a voice for the industry within the halls of Washington. She does understand from a fundamental perspective what needs to be done as it relates to rescheduling, descheduling, the trials and tribulations of the industry. And she was asking all of the right questions to RFK in her letter.
Lance, you're right. Angela had just had a yikes post on a new DEA guy. What was that?
It's probably on Papadopoulos, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I don't want to say the term interim, but he's now officially is the acting current administrator, is he not? Do you know?
So Tom is mimicking what I put online this weekend. That former DEA administrator, Jack Riley, who I just said cannabis was a gateway drug. He's also said that he's willing to change his views as it relates to the scheduling of cannabis. He's a huge opioid and fentanyl guy. I do think that he is even keeled as it relates to cannabis, and I'm not basing that on any information that I know, but Tom's mimicking what I put on Twitter on Saturday, for all intents and purposes. So I don't really think it's a big yikes moment, with all due respect.
Gretchen writes, interesting point. She's ranking member on banking and didn't bring up cannabis to the proposed Treasury Secretary. Good point, Gretchen. Inside Tom's article, writes the Dankenformer, but even so, he said moving marijuana to Schedule 3 could be a positive policy in terms of getting us clear to use our resources to combat other major drugs. Thanks, Dankenformer. That's great. All right. I know we always talk about RFK being a wild card in all this when it comes to cannabis and psychedelic reform, but I think the real wild card is who is going to be the head of the DEA. We all already know that the head of the HHS, if it is RFK and is confirmed, his stance on it all, and if he's supportive, and that's a great thing. But the question remains, will Trump pick somebody that's in line with RFK's views? That's the wild card as to where we're at right now.
That is true, but the work's already been done. The HHS report's there for rescheduling. RFK can further the cause if they want to create more data, more research, et cetera, as it relates to the plant. But the work that has been done to get Schedule 3 and establish that two-part test, as well as some accepted medical use, is done. RFK really doesn't have any more influence on the rescheduling process in terms of getting it done or adding fuel to the fire. He's not going to be adversarial moving forward. And he is for ultimately descheduling versus rescheduling, which Senator Warren made that very clear in her questions as to the nuance between rescheduling to Schedule 3, which she thinks is light, and ultimately descheduling the plant completely. That's where RFK is going to come in and do some heavy lifting for us potentially. Yeah. But yes, you are correct. The DEA head is everything. If we get another Ann Milgram, then we're kind of screwed.
Probably waiting, what, a week, 2 weeks before Pam Bondi is official as Attorney General. Man, I give her credit for what she had to go through over the weekend, being asked questions about whether or not she fully accepts the 2021 or 2020 election was indeed lost by Donald Trump. And I do know there's a lot of podcasts that we're talking about this weekend, and I don't really understand what that is a question that she has to answer 4 years later. Like, it is what it is. It's done. Let's move on. But here we are, new era, Donald Trump back as the president of the United States. And for us in the cannabis industry, I think this is a long-term plan where we start to see a new administration and what their stance will be. And hopefully he is a man of his word, knowing that he has actually supported this industry in the past. But in due time, we will learn that and find out what it is. But Ann Milgram, she's no longer head of the DEA. If you had to put into few words, what do you think the legacy that she leaves behind with regards to cannabis supporters that want to advance this industry?
Within the cannabis industry and with people that are pro-cannabis, I mean, Ann Milgram couldn't be farther from an adversary. Ann Milgram's going to be remembered as being disingenuous, probably in bed with the enemy as it relates to Sam and the prohibitionist groups, and just creating a circus and a joke out of a rescheduling process that didn't need to be undermined in any way, shape, or form. I mean, Ann Milgram, I don't think Ann Milgram has an ounce of integrity in her. I mean, granted, she is responsible for enforcing drug laws in the United States, but she's also responsible for being practical in her approach to policymaking, and she couldn't be farther from a joke as it relates to cannabis.
She's home listening to her CDs. That's brilliant Irish.
Yeah. I mean, Ann Milgram hasn't done us any favors, but she hasn't done herself any favors either.
Yeah. Guap, good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. We'll see you back here Friday, and can't wait to see you. I know a lot of people reaching out to see where you're at, and very much he's the guy behind the scenes during the week, but every Friday we come in for Mic Drop with Guap, which he'll be having one this Friday, so we're looking forward to that. Percy Lex writes, the only thing that will really move the needle is tax reform. Anything else will be another pump and dump as long as 35% of EBITDA is being pissed away in overtaxation.
That's all we're talking about. I mean, rescheduling is tax reform. That's it in a nutshell.
Yep, I agree. Anything else you want to add to that, or do you think we've exhausted that topic?
No, I mean, it's nice to see Ann gone. Like I said, I mean, I think Jack Riley's probably going to be that next guy. Let's see what Jack Riley does at the helm of the DEA. I really do believe, and I know this is anecdotal and also conjecture and opinion, but at the same time, like I think this administration, from a law and order standpoint, I don't think they care about cannabis. Their real prime objective is going to be stamping out fentanyl, cartels, and opioids.
Yep.
I think that is going to be where they also need to reallocate resources and stop fucking with cannabis as it relates to on the legal side, as it relates to enforcement and capital allocation.
Only legalize will end black market and help pharma crimes. I don't know if that is the right word, but maybe there's a typo error there. But yeah, you know what? It's again, the whole point of bringing this up off the top is just to calm people's expectations. I don't want people being led, and we're not pumpers here, that yes, why are we somewhat optimistic, excited? Well, it's a new era. There's change. You know, whether that actually happens or not, we don't know. So again, we like to cover this industry. We like to bring on thought leaders in the space that are having conversations in Washington, and we try to communicate that information to you, the end user, and you can consume, take, and interpret it all based on how you want. But you know, I will make it very, very clear that, you know, there's a reason why these agencies combined last week, because there needs to be some better synergy in Washington as to what needs to be done. We need somebody full-time on the Hill communicating with a lot of these policymakers and really having the right messaging in place, because it's moment of truth time for this industry right now. Because if there's not some sort of cannabis reform or rescheduling, you're going to see a lot of companies being scaled back in the overall industry over these next couple of years, because it's a moment of truth time. It's a crossroads for this industry right now, right?
I think scaled back is a kind term.
Yeah.
To use. More so going out of business and hair on fire is probably more likely.
A lot. So here we are. Ball's in your court, Mr. Trump. Let's see where we go from here. Where we are going from here, though, is the bluegrass state, Kentucky, as we shift our attention now in their medical market, which is reloading its legislative crosshairs on federal gun restrictions. What's going on here? Because I know this was featured in your newsletter this morning, but you want to maybe elaborate what I'm talking about regards to this?
Governor Andy Beshear, who's a red governor or blue governor in a red state. So, I mean, that's all you got to really know about the guy.
Yeah.
The state of Kentucky want medical marijuana. They're getting medical marijuana, and he's calling out the farce as far as gun ownership, as well as having your medical marijuana card. This just reinforces the notion of what the NRA was talking about last week. Governor Andy Beshear, I would assume, probably is in direct talks with the NRA. And this is going to be something that continues to surface.
That's interesting. You said he is in a blue state, but is a Republican, correct?
No, he's a Democrat. No, he's a Democrat in a Republican state.
What's that tell you?
Tells me he's the man for the job. I would have liked to see him actually on the ticket as far as the Democrats go.
All right. Don't have a lot of topics today just because markets are closed, but anybody want to ask some questions right now, feel free. We'll make this kind of like freestyle like we do on Fridays. But what do you think is what leaves you? What's a question I can ask you right now that pertains to the overall cannabis space moving forward?
What's a question I can ask you right now as it relates to the overall cannabis space?
You want to ask me that?
I mean,
well, how do I best answer that? I think we just kind of outlined it time and time again. I just finished it up on our first segment where, you know, I'm curious to see what this approach is going to be. We did have both Davids on. They talked about the work that needs to be done, but it's like, what is that work? What is the right approach? Who are you going to be speaking with? And then
that's a good question from Percy. We will have Luke Mongo as well as the gentleman, I forget his name, from CUSA on within the next month. Both of them will actually be on the show. Quite timely.
Mitch writes, any recent buybacks in the space you have seen? Nope.
I haven't seen any. I would assume Ben's buying a stock at these prices. These prices are crazy right now on GTI. So I would assume that buyback program is active.
Yeah. Wolfie, you're right. And Mofi's done well with the space. Take profit on pops. Simple. How do you guys feel?
I was actually going to answer that. I'm actually quite optimistic about Pennsylvania. I'm hearing that Governor Shapiro's on board. I'm hearing that the Street Laughlin bill is some semblance of what they want to pass, and that they are expecting to get something done in the first half of this year, and it will be included in Governor Shapiro's tax planning as it relates and budget as it relates that will come out in February.
Yeah. Susie Wiles, we don't talk a lot about her. We brought up her name a couple times, but her background in cannabis, she worked, for my understanding, for a PR agency that focused. Was it one of the biggest cannabis lobbying firms that she worked with at one time?
She worked for Mercury, which is a large comms, lobbying, and PR firm.
Yep.
And then Pam Bondi worked for Ballard Partners, which are a large lobbying firm in DC and in Florida that were a big part in constructing the MMTC program in Florida upon its rollout. I don't know if Pam Bondi worked on any files directly in the cannabis industry, but Ballard was a huge voice in getting the industry up and running here, as well as getting those licenses won.
Anything happening in Georgia, or Gretchen writes, Indiana? How about Indiana and South Carolina?
Wild cards.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I think the next big moment, if you can see it, whether it's 4 or 6 months down the road, we have had a few conversations pertaining to adult use, but Pennsylvania is kind of like that next catalyst story that's starting to slowly but surely build a little bit of narrative like Florida was. And then it obviously peaked in the fall leading up to election night. And we all know what the outcome of that will be. But it appears that one of the biggest trends as far as new markets is concerned is the state of Pennsylvania. And I keep hearing that we should have something, either a yes or a no, confirmed at some point by the middle of 2025. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting in Florida with the re-proposed ballot initiative and the gubernatorial race coinciding with that. And I'm hearing actually Byron Donalds is going to be throwing his hat in the ring, potentially running for governor. Of Florida on the Republican side, which I know he was actually arrested for, I think it was for possession and distribution of cannabis. That charge was dropped and his record was cleaned, but he still was against Amendment 3 in the state of Florida.
Wow.
He won't be able to run for governor in the state of Florida and be against Amendment 3 if it's on the ballot. I can assure you of that. He will not win.
It's wild to think of how many people I witnessed down there that are almost every single person I spoke to, a resident in Florida, was all supportive of it. But to your point, it's a topic or conversation that's not going away, knowing that it's already making news, as we highlighted late last week, that brand new initiative coming out. It actually was on one of our top 5 developments for the week last week. If you ain't got a chance, make sure to log on to our YouTube channel afterwards and check out the video. I highlighted the top 5 developments. I'm going to be doing that every Sunday and posting that on Sunday nights. Just a quick recap of the week that was in cannabis. So let us know your thoughts. But Byron Donalds, actually, I interviewed him. Seemed like, you know what, he didn't say too much when I interviewed him, but off camera, I could tell that he was in support.
It's going to be funny because you are, and maybe might be someone out there that doesn't agree with this, but you will not be able to run for governor of Florida and oppose Amendment 3 on the same ticket. I don't see it. It won by 56%. You're not going to win the governor's seat and actively oppose Amendment 3.
Yep.
In whatever the new iteration is as far as the branding goes. But you're not going to be able to oppose adult use cannabis in the state of Florida and assume you're going to win the governor's seat.
Yep. Co-op, yes. I remember telling Donalds to fact check all the anti-3 DeSantis misinfo. Yeah, you did speak to him afterwards. We interviewed him.
It's going to be an interesting. I think it's going to be an interesting couple of days. There's going to be Trump's going to rifle off these executive orders, and we're going to see how the cannabis and crypto industries land. The crypto industry actually got a taste of our medicine today, as they were all watching the inaugural address and just waiting for Donald Trump to mention crypto, mention the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, mention something. Came and went. He didn't mention it, and now they're all kind of like in their feelings, wondering exactly what's going on. Well, guys, you now know how the cannabis industry feels when we were watching debates and different events and waiting for the word to surface, and it came and went and never surfaced.
Yeah.
So welcome to the struggle.
The Dank Informer. I forgot the Dank Informer. You said to DM you, and yes, we want to have you on. What do you guys all think? Do you think we should have the Dank Informer on? I 100% would love to. Dank Informer, if you're coming on, are you going to wear a mask? And if so, should we wear one too? If so, what's a good mask that you would wear? Like, are we going Squid Game mask? Seems to be a hot trend right now. Would you want to do that sort of thing? Or is that just a question you don't want to answer?
You talking to me?
I'm talking to you, buddy.
Sure, I'll wear a ski mask.
Ski mask?
Oh, there you go. We're on the same page.
Ski masks for all. All right. Anthony Gabito writes, hell yes, I agree. Weed Street 420. Man, that guy's going rogue on Twitter right now. That's for sure. Here we go again. Florida Amendment can't include homegrown, writes Mark Landers. Yes. Lots going on, that's for sure.
I don't want to hear anything about the home grow. If you want to grow weed if you want to grow weed at home, grow weed at home. Like I can't deal with those people. The fact that you fundamentally oppose something that's the first step to decriminalizing cannabis in one of the largest states in the country, as well as providing relief to businesses and allowing further access to the plant. If the hill that you're going to die on is because it doesn't include home grow, you better be growing in your house right now. Like, it is the stupidest argument that I've ever heard. DeSantis figured it out. The hemp people figured it out. Home grow, to me, home grow is irrelevant. Like, yes, it is a freedom, and it does symbolize a certain notion of you can do exactly what you want. But the fact that it's a single-use ballot initiative in Florida, which I know I've said 100 times, and they can't include home grow or it's not going to pass, I really don't know what to tell you. Like, if you want home grow, go move somewhere else. That allows it.
I can tell you, you got to live through it. I know when they federally legalized it in Canada, that was one of the biggest issues. But over time, it's not an issue anymore. If you're running around, you run into somebody and say, hey, want to come over last minute to our house on a Saturday night? Guess what? You can't grow pot within a matter of a couple of hours. You got a nice little dispensary down the street to pick up everything that you need. It's all about convenience.
I'm for home grow. I would love for it to include home grow. I would be growing plants in my house right now if Florida allowed home grow as a science experiment. Do I feel so strongly about it that I'm going to oppose decriminalizing as well as adult use access for people for cannabis in the state of Florida? Hell no.
Yeah.
Like, those people are either frauds or they're just bots or whatever their little world that they live in. But if you want to die on the hill of home grow, cutting off your nose to spite your face, like, go ahead.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's the most frivolous argument you could make against the amendment in the state of Florida.
Dank Informer, I have a new idea as far as masks idea. I think we should wear presidential masks. I'll be Richard Nixon. Anthony, you could be
no, it'd be George W. Bush.
George W. And maybe Dank Informer can be Joe Biden. I think that would be interesting. Have a conversation with the presidents talking about the support of cannabis. Be a first time ever, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
One thing I also
George Bush was really finger gunsing everybody at the inauguration.
Was he?
He's the best.
How's he look?
I think he looks great.
I think he's what now? Is he late 70s? Yeah, he's got to be late 70s.
He has to be. I mean, I think he's a criminal, and I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that he did, but I mean, his persona and just the way that he carries himself and the way that he's just like portrayed, I think he's great.
Gretchen and Christopher, you took it right out of me. That's what I was thinking about. The ex-presidents. Point Break. That's one of the top 5 movies in my book as like greatest movies of all time. LBJ, I am ready. Give me 2, Utah. Give me 2. Just love that movie. All right.
So Bob, there is no real small business lending in cannabis for the most part. I mean, yeah, there's debt lenders. Yeah, there's capital markets. There's definitely access to capital, but there's no true small business lending as per what you're asking.
Yep. How's everybody out there? You know what? We talk a lot about what we think on this cannabis space. What's everybody's thoughts out there? Are they feeling good about the industry? Do you like this new administration? You got any questions? As we said, we've reached out to both Charlie and Kim's camp. So we hope to, if we're going to have them on, it's going to be a special time tomorrow. So we'll make sure that you smash that like bell for all notifications, because we'll give you an update on what time that will be. And if so, feel free to fire off some questions that you want us to ask them, because there's a lot of stuff that we can talk about. And I think a lot of it has to do with what I keep saying is just okay, what is the actual context of the work that needs to be done? What's the first approach? And I think from there, I would think too, with a lot of these companies that are on the board, like the Crescos and Trulies, when hiring these agencies, there's certain tiers that they're going to have to meet, I would think, before they start investing more money in over time. It's all based on performance. And I would love to see and understand what those first few things will be as they gear up to speak to this administration pertaining to the space. Were you going to say something?
No, I know that Ron's asked a question about market manipulation several times. It's not our forte. I'm not a forensic analyst. Shad's not a forensic analyst. I mean, if you want to go do your own homework and try to figure that out, sure. It's kind of well above our pay grade. And I mean, granted, it's not something that I think I have the skill set to look into or speak about.
Yeah. Jedamine writes, feeling hopeful, waiting for a good DEA pick and RFK confirmation. There's the first good step. Unfortunately, they have to give more money to the politicians, Anthony Gambino writes, and I think that you're 100% right there. Will they open up bio research like Canada and Australia?
Of course. Schedule 3 opens up research.
Talk about that facility that you saw the one time in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
That was the Pfizer plant.
Exactly. Mention some of the things that you mentioned to me with regards to how that could be turnkey and
I didn't actually go inside of it when we were talking about it. It was next to grow facilities that I was checking out, and they quote unquote have the capabilities to cultivate as well as produce cannabis within that plant, and that's their main plant in the United States.
Yeah, but we had Aras Azadian on last week, the head of Avicana, trades on the TSX under the ticker symbol AVCN. They've done I would say probably one of the most impressive companies towards the research of medical cannabis out of most companies in the overall space, but kind of highlighting that before that full infrastructure. Go ahead.
So you know who actually talked about that today?
Who?
Sam. Luke.
What'd you say?
From Sam was like, oh, look, big pharma, big tobacco, and cannabis joining forces. This needs to stop. And I was like, Luke, what are you doing? Like, this is the long game for cannabis. These are cannabinoid medicines. These are actual medical applications of the plant going on in a country that has federally legalized cannabis with institutions that have world-renowned doctors and world-renowned research. This is not how to get high at the gas station or a vape product. These are actual medicinal applications of cannabis for adults as well as kids. Like, this is something, if anything, if you're in the neighborhood of Sam and you're talking about harm reduction, as well as talking about just general well-being and smart approaches to marijuana, what Avicana, Philip Morris, and I forget the subsidiary of Philip Morris are doing is the smart approach to marijuana.
Yep.
You couldn't have been farther from the truth with the assumptions that you were making that it was some bad thing of connecting the dots with big pharma, big tobacco, and cannabis. It was just a dumb statement that looked like it lacked knowledge.
Easy for messaging to be misconstrued, and for people that don't follow the space, they'll buy into it, and that's why he gets a paycheck still. But this is why I always say, make sure to share this video with your network, because the only way that we're going to help this industry is by helping ourselves. So if there's anything that I can actually give back, or at least ask for everybody to do, share these content pieces that we put together to your network, because those that follow this space almost find a lot of these claims laughable.
Yeah, and Mark's right. It shows you Sam are frauds.
Yes, Billy Cross, you're correct. George Papadopoulos is the acting DEA administrator for now.
He is acting. That is a correct assumption. He is the DEA administrator if you go to the website.
Jeff Buck writes, why aren't the states that have legalized medical organized to press for federal reform? Does federal reform expose states' regulatory structures to lawsuits, put state tax revenues at risk? Gretchen, you around? You want to help me answer that?
Why aren't the states that have legalized medical organized to press for federal reform? Does federal reform expose states' regulatory structures to lawsuits? But it's a good question, Jeff. But I mean, that's a question that we don't have enough facts to actually answer.
Yeah.
You would need rescheduling and or clarity on what the medical versus adult use regulations are going to be on a go for. It's a very good question. That needs to be answered, but there is nowhere near enough information or evidence right now to answer that with a educated statement.
That takes a lot to unpack, right, Gretchen?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
that's a great question.
Yeah. Grim writes, we need Joe Rogan in the White House. Well, I don't know if we need him in the White House, but I'm sure that Joe and Donald do talk from time to time. But
there's no more influence. I don't think people understand. There's no more influencing what Trump is going to. I really don't think there's any more. You're not going to get outside influence. He knows what he's going to do. He's either going to do it or he's not.
Yeah. Well, I was speaking to
That's it.
somebody from Washington today that spoke with Congressman Brian Mast actually over the weekend, and he said this is not a first 100-day issue relating to the cannabis space. So
No.
I think everybody knows that, but we need to continue to remind people that, because as soon as we see something optimistic, people are full on jumping on that idea. And again, if you're just joining us now, we did address off the top with this whole executive order conversation taking place on Twitter. Calm your expectations. We strongly feel that this is not going to happen. And we just need to manage, people's expectations going into this industry. But choose at your own leisure, but this is not a 100-day issue, first 100-day issue for the overall current administration towards cannabis. But let's hope after 100 days we start to see something. I don't know what it is, but rescheduling would be nice, along other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Before we log off, I want people's vote last time. Like, what are we wearing for masks when we have the Dank Informer on? We going ski masks? Are we going COVID masks? Or are we going
We're definitely not. We're definitely not wearing COVID masks.
Are we going ex-president masks? Anybody? We're logging off in 30 seconds. I want people to type in what the actual answer. Irish writes, I heard he's putting out an executive order that will make MJ the official plant of the U.S. Yeah, right. Gas masks. Fred and Barney. Hashtag deschedule. No, we'll keep that last one, Christopher Brady, but good to see you. Old school pantyhose. Really, Gretchen?
We're not looking like Marv and whatever his name was from Home Alone.
Yeah, I remember that. 1990. It's almost 35 years now. Where's time go?
Was it that long ago?
1990.
Home Alone?
Yeah, it was made in 1990. The dad, now in real life, he's passed away.
That means I was 3. I could have swore I came out later, but you're probably
Mom's
right.
Canadian. She was very good friends with John Candy, one of the greatest comedians who died.
I actually am good with what Tom said. I have a Guy Fawkes mask.
Sweet. Nixon.
If you don't know what that is, that's the V for Vendetta. That's the V for Vendetta mask.
Okay. Nixon, Carter, and Trump. This has been awesome. I love actually going around, asking people a lot of questions. Markets are closed today. A lot of people weren't available, but you know what?
By the way, happy MLK Day for those that observe.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely something that should have been called out. He was a great man, and that's why we're celebrating the holiday today with the markets closed.
Yeah. Can you imagine a man like that today?
I think he would have done a lot of good if he wasn't. Well, we're not going to get into that. But yes, I think that Martin Luther King was probably one of the best people to walk around, especially in the United States.
100%. I agree. That man had great values in life.
Saw
big picture and got people convinced to understand it. But, in a time of the world that we live in now, MLK would be amazing to have right now.
He was a very, very powerful man.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, everyone. Appreciate you logging on here today and giving us a listen and watch. Make sure to check us out on our audio podcast too. I'm actually doing a recap every single day from our newsletter. If you want to get a chance to see that, make sure to log on to our Spotify and Apple podcast as we outline the biggest headlines for the day every single day, Monday through Friday. So check us out there. And you can see it obviously down below. And we'll keep everyone posted on how this materializes with Charlie and Kim. And like I said, hopefully we can get them on at some point tomorrow, but we'll keep you posted either way if anything happens. All right.
I'm hoping that we have a stream tomorrow with them on. It'd be nice to get a touch base as to what's going on.
Amazing. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of our MLK and President's Day here in America. And we'll see you back here either tomorrow or Wednesday. But like I said, stay connected. We'll keep you guys all informed over the next 12 to 24 hours.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, everybody. Stay connected here at the latest Traded Black podcast. Another great episode under the belt. What'd y'all think? Do you like what we had to say? Please leave any comments below. And as usual, make sure to subscribe to our Baked In newsletter. Check us out on Apple and Spotify. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to smash that like button, leave some comments, as I said before, and subscribe to our channel because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everybody, for watching.